Okay, looks like we're live. So let's get right into it, guys. Um, so here I am with the weekend edition of putting together my stock watch list. This is going to be for on the evening of September 14th, 2025. Excuse me, a little bit rusty here. Just enjoyed another pleasant weekend. The weather was actually a bit hotter than I would have liked. I would have liked a little bit cooler weather, but gotta enjoy the heat while it lasts. It's not going to last much longer, unfortunately. But just getting back to the stocks here, I do want to recap my Friday. And my Friday, it was a whole lot that happened, and the result was very underwhelming, I would say. Yeah, there's a lot of movement in my portfolio, and it could have been a great day, but one of my stocks I was holding, it just completely cracked on me, and that was a bit disappointing. But overall, I'm still feeling quite optimistic about my positioning in the market. I think that I'm in the right names to maybe hold for a bigger run. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it here. So we'll start with Tesla. This is now the most liquid stock in the market. And you'll see that Tesla had this nice true breakout over this resistance level. And I did buy it. I put my buy point here in green. I was a little bit late to the party. I did want to buy it on this Thursday here. I talked about this Thursday night. I ran out of settled funds that I could trade with because I made too many, really quick in and out dump trades early in the day. So when it broke out, I missed the early entry. But now it's broken out in earnest. You can see the volume coming in even higher, so following through to the upside. I do think that this will run up maybe for another day or so. But what does make me nervous about my, slightly late entry here is that I do have to be a little more concerned on pullbacks because I can see it pulling back all the way down to basically the base of this bar here if it really got bad, if the market really turned. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to keep powering through. So I'm feeling pretty good about this one. It's a very classic base breakout here, a very long, big base. Tesla, I'm not too bullish on them fundamentally, I have to admit. They don't seem to deliver all the time, and self-driving, I just don't think it's that cool anymore. I don't think it's that hot of a commodity. I don't know if it's going to generate the kind of returns that the valuation would call for. That being said, we got to trade off the charts sometimes, so while I do recognize that this is a speculative name and I will be more careful with it because of that, I'm also, just here to trade the price action. The price action is looking beautiful. We've eclipsed 90 on the relative strength rating, so overall, feeling good about this one, and hopefully we can just let it ride. So Nvidia, this one I would also have my eye on. Certainly it slowed down a little bit from its old days there. Certainly it slowed down a bit from its old days there, but I will say that it's looking quite good. It gapped up similar to a lot of stocks off of those Oracle earnings, and it's just kind of gone sideways ever since, never breaking the lows. So I think on the hourly chart this one's looking close to maybe, it's just riding that 10 there, so really a break over this level would probably be a potential entry. And I do think this is one that I could possibly enter just to really keep with that highly liquid theme I'm operating in. Maybe there are some other faster movers in the AI space I might want to try, but this one's certainly worth a watch, I'd say. And I need to do this in blue. Okay. And then Apple, this one kind of retested this fair value gap here, if you want to call it that, and it did bounce, so it's still looking intact. It's still looking okay from this breakout here. I guess you can kind of call this the wedge pop, exhaustion extension, wedge pop. I was just watching a Oliver Kell video, so that's why I'm thinking that way. But yeah, this one definitely slower mover, probably not for me, but it's holding up. That's what you want from the Mag 7 for the market to be healthy. And then here we have Palantir. If you'll remember, if you watched my previous videos, I did buy this one on the gap up and I got stopped out when it broke the low. I wasn't feeling that great about it, so I did keep my stop tight. But, finally it does show that follow-on strength. It breaks the high of the range. So I did buy into this one. Again, I think it's showing quite nicely here. I think it shows that buyers are continuing to step in. And, I was very uncertain when we had this heavy selling and then just kind of sat here. But the fact that it didn't violate this initial buyback, the fact that we were able to gap up on the Oracle earnings and now we're showing follow through, this one I think it will also be a potential winner, so I've positioned myself in it. And I do want to show you guys how I got into this one. I always kind of yell at myself for trading on the lower day charts. But this one, I have to say, my entry was pretty much perfect. I saw it break out of the range here. It came down, and so I saw it climbing up, and I knew it was going to have to pull back because it wasn't a beginning of the day breakthrough that's just going to go powering up. So it did pull back. It went back up, and I think I had discipline there. I was waiting for some sort of tightness. But then it came back down, and I saw that this 50-minute line was lining up with this low here. So I bought it right off the bounce. It was a perfect buy on the 1-minute chart. I usually don't get those, and it never came back down to that point. So I am feeling good about this one. I put my stop a little bit lower just to give it a little more room. So yeah, I think with this position and the Tesla position, I think that I'm just going to focus on sitting back, and hopefully these will work a little bit, and if I get into anything in the next few days, it's going to have to be a great setup because I just really want to get some cushion before I push more chips into the table. And here we've got Microsoft kind of lingering under the 50, Amazon bouncing off the 50, not looking great though. AMD showing relative weakness to other semiconductor names. And Broadcom, this one, it definitely, to me, needs some time. You've seen some selling come in up at these levels, which is no surprise. It's no black mark on the stock. After a big name makes a move like this, you expect some digestion, so hopefully a pullback to maybe the 10 or the 20, and that one could possibly be viable off of that kind of action. And I am going to try to keep my watch list a little bit slimmer, even less than 25. I really just want to focus on the leaders that are setting up. So this one, I wouldn't say that's actually, you know what, I do want to add this one because even though I'm probably not going to buy it tomorrow, I do like to get a good feel for what the market's doing. So this one, just want to keep it on my radar. And Google, nothing wrong with this one, just kind of inching higher. Looks like it will probably connect with this 10-day at some point, so maybe a potential spot for Google there. And Meta, this one kind of in the Amazon camp with the way that it's moving. It looks fine, it looks okay, but probably not going to be a leader if I had to guess. In Oracle, you're seeing some pretty big selling coming in off that gap up, and that's no surprise. You would like to see it maybe hold the lows of that, but you can see it close kind of towards the low of that end of that range, so no surprise to see the sellers come in now. I do expect this one to maybe have a little bit of sideways action and then set up again, which is when we'd really start to get interested on Oracle. And then Robinhood, and tell me this thing's not going to go super slow. That would be very annoying. Looks like I might have to reset this, which is just a pain in the butt. So I am going to go ahead and we loaded. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. Okay, I guess we're back to being fast. So here we see Robinhood. We had that gap up on the S&P inclusion, which was kind of annoying because I'd been wanting to take this one off the 50, so the gap was not a welcome gap in my opinion. So obviously we didn't just go straight up from there. There's still more selling to work through. So we've kind of come back down. We're retesting this area. I don't think we're going to quite retest the bottom of this gap, but either way we're looking for this to show some sort of support either on a rising moving average or at the low end of the gap, and then I think this would be a great spot to get in on a liquid leader type name. I know this one's kind of tied to Bitcoin, which hasn't been doing well, but it's such a powerful stock that this one is one I'm always itching to get back in at a favorable spot. So I do just want to look at the hourly chart real quick. Yeah, so maybe just a bounce off the 10-day line or the 50-hour line here would be a good spot to try and get back in on some Robinhood. And you can see the difference. Why I'm more open to taking it now as opposed to back then is because back then we were making lower highs stuck underneath the 50-hour line, the gap up. This is now turned upwards, and we're looking for higher lows to start coming in. So that's what we're looking for on Robinhood. And Lily, that didn't look too hot. Nope. APP just continues to ride higher. I mean, there was no overhead supply when this thing gapped up. It gapped out of a huge base. It's not really the explosive move that you'd expect to see coming out of a huge base. So I do think we're going to see a potential pullback into this, and it could pop out from there, but I think maybe even a greater reset would be required before we see some true explosiveness back in this name. That's just how I feel about it, but right now, certainly nothing wrong with what it's doing. And yep, MicroStrategy, this is still showing some weakness. In the Bitcoin theme, Coinbase, starting to turn back up, but stuck underneath the 50. This is still showing some weakness in the Bitcoin theme. And Netflix, just not a good day for Netflix on Thursday. It continues to not really show any bounce, which is not what you want to see. We'll see if it can hold these lows. If not, it's probably a potential, if it was to try and rally, reject off these converging moving averages, then come down and break these lows, I would say that would be a decent short spot. Though I would say this is a very steady company, probably not one that I would personally want to short, but you know, there's no company that's too safe, so maybe a potential there. Then Micron, still kicking myself for selling this one a bit too early. This is showing some very parabolic action. So I don't know if this one's going to make like one of those runs where it just doubles in, you know, a matter of weeks, or if this is some sort of climax. I don't think it's a climactic action because this thing hasn't even broken out. Okay, so we are coming up to all-time highs here, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think that should result in us getting some sort of pullback. If it's a messy pullback, then yeah, we'll probably have to stay away from this one. But if this one starts to make like a gradual orderly pullback and the moving averages catch up, then I think that the break above this all-time high could be very explosive. So I'm still kicking myself for selling this one well, I didn't even really hold it. I just sold it because it reversed, but kicking myself for that, but there will be more opportunities. In CoreWeave, it looks like the sellers really saw an opportunity here, but the buyers, they step back in. So I would say that this one is going to be pivotal to see what happens at the 50 here. If it gets above the 50, starts working its way up, then I'll be watching this level for a potential buy. BMNR is coming back to life. This one, I just think it's a little bit too much for me. Can't be day trading right now in my current situation, and I would not want to hold this name overnight, so I'm just going to move on. BABA, still showing a very nice trend here. I'm not in the market for foreign stocks right now. And Taiwan Semi holding in there tight. Intel kind of lingering up here. It's not showing the commitment to moving on, which, you know, sometimes things do linger a bit, but you can only do that for so long. This one, after the Trump pump, it looks like it might be starting to come off, but it could easily just, you just want to be watching these lows. If it breaks that, it's probably going to be in trouble, but it does still look fairly nice. If it does pop up, then it could start to come out of the bottom of its long-term chart. And it's certainly showing the type of volume you would expect of a stock that's bottoming. Like it's like if you look at Carvana, you'll see on its chart that when the stock got super cheap, the volume just shot up and then it started to work its way back up. So I would say that this is definitely possible accumulation down here, probably a lot of it by our government, but yeah, this is probably not the area that I want to be playing in. And let's see what else we got. Yeah, banks are really starting to work their way higher. There are better names in the space though. And Walmart, coming back up to its highs here, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Personally, I think we're going to do a little more sideways first, but you can see that the selling definitely starting to come out of this name. So this one could kick back into gear soon. And Reddit, retesting this high, if it did come back and maybe pull back to this area, to the bottom of this breakout candle, then that would certainly be a place I'd be looking to catch some support. But this one, also kicking myself for not buying this one, though it does look like it's turned around somewhat. So maybe an opportunity for this one. It has undercut this 10-hour line. It's kind of riding the 20-hour line. Let's see if maybe we can do a quick shakeout and move up back up. This one, I think it's one to watch for sure. PNW, I called out a potential short here. It does look like we've hit some resistance. So I'm not saying to go and short this name since that's not my game. I don't really short things, but that's just how I saw it as a potential short area here. And I don't know why this thing is not loading. I'm getting quite annoyed. Move on, I guess. Yep, Bank of America lagging behind some of the other banks, but holding up at all-time highs. GE Vernova, we're seeing a little bit of selling come in. It hasn't been a gap and go, which is probably for the best. We'll just see if it can hold the bottom of that range, and if it does, then this one certainly could kick back into gear. It's been a very nice moving stock, so I wouldn't try to get too smart on this one, just follow the price action. And if we're able to hold these lows, it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, but if we're able to hold those lows and then pop above this high, then this one is probably back in play. And SoFi really starting to wedge up here, but it's been a really nice run for this stock. Uber, let's zoom out on this one and see what the deal is. So this one, it's kind of a strange chart, honestly, because you had this breakout, and this is where you would kind of be thinking, okay, this thing's going to take off, and it's just kind of not moved very smoothly. You've gotten maybe, since the beginning of 2024, you've gotten maybe, I mean, like a 60% gain, so that's pretty good. I mean, it's not anything to shake your head at, but we're trying to do even better than that. So this one, it definitely could break above these highs and keep going, but it just hasn't really shown the propensity to be a great runner. In HIMS, I did call this out as a potential short area. If we failed to 50, it's poked right down through. And yeah, I always say I don't mess around with this one way or the other because it's too unpredictable and volatile, and that holds up, you know, just slicing right back through. So I guess the only place that I could potentially start to think about this one is if it came back up to these highs, but even then, that's not a very pretty base. So this one, I just don't think it's one that you want to poke your head into too much if you're not a very short-term trader. ServiceNow looks like it wants to get shorted. Home Depot looks really, really nice. If you crack this high, then yeah, that's probably a good spot to buy if you're like a long-term holder type of guy. And Nebius, bouncing off the low here, still way extended from the moving averages, so it's a nice story. Clearly this one looks like it could be a leader for the future, but right now it's still kind of moving mostly on gaps, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a great entry on this one. That Snowflake still being stubborn and holding these lows, but just not showing the strength that you want to see from an AI related name. Not now when everything else is going parabolic pretty much. In Circle, the Bitcoin theme, very weak, but this did poke its head up, didn't erase those gains on Friday, so showing some green shoots, but I think we're going to need to see a little bit more from Circle. We definitely want to see this line face up, and then we want to start making higher lows. And I think maybe this candle right here would probably be a good spot. Yep, this earning candle right here kind of coincides with this consolidation, the bottom of this range. I think this is where you probably want to get above realistically before you start looking at Circle, unless you're somebody who likes to try and take things off the bottom. And I know Johnson & Johnson's too slow. I know SMCI doesn't look any good. I just wish that my thing would work a little bit faster. Oh my god. I don't even remember what MA is. I don't think it's MasterCard. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and mess around with this for 2 seconds. I guess that loaded now. God, this is just ridiculous. Yeah, we still have more than half. Sorry, everybody. Okay, let me turn the screen back on. Nobody's watched. It's very unfortunate. Okay, I think we're good to go. Let me check. I think we're up. Okay, I think we're good, sorry. One watch right now, right? SMCI, yeah, not one you want to be in. CrowdStrike, the cyber security seems to be in kind of a pivotal moment with a lot of these stocks coming back up to some resistance. So we'll see if the theme can get back into gear or if it's just going to fall apart. And Boeing is looking like it wants to fall apart as well, cracking that 50. And oh man, here we have Arista Networks. This was a real downer for me on Friday. If Arista Networks had just held up, then I'd be in a really, really good spot in terms of my portfolio, but since it did this, I'm in just a okay spot. So this one, apparently what happened is they had like a analyst event, and their forecasts were positive, but I guess they weren't optimistic enough in line with the whole AI thing, so you can see this one completely dumped on very high volume on Friday, and I didn't cut it right away. The old me would have cut this thing pretty much right away, but I want to try and hold things for longer, so I gave it a chance. It just, there was no buyers in the market for this one, so I looked at my portfolio, and I said I don't want to be 75% invested going into the weekend when I don't have a lot of cushion. And I also said I don't want to hold a stock that looks like it's broken. This looks like a broken chart right now with this terrible bar here. So I sold this one and I held on to my Tesla and my Palantir. So yeah, this one just not looking good. It hasn't cracked the low of this range yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a small bounce and then this one just kind of needing a reset. So yeah, just probably not the one to be in right now. So it's unfortunate, but it's part of trading. I think I did make like 1.5% on the position, so it does pay for some of my other losses. And here we have Citigroup, this one looking nice, starting to come alive. Lam Research, this one broke out on Thursday, and it held the highs, even working higher a bit more. So just more bullishness in the AI space. And here we have Goldman Sachs kind of going sideways. I'm kind of regretting not buying this one just because it would have been a nice diversification for my portfolio. You can see this one riding the 10-hour. I do feel that this one might pull back just a little more, but it could just kind of go sideways and then start working higher again. So we'll see. Or this one, I would call this one the leader as far as banks go. And then A-Lab, potentially showing a short-term peak here, not really looking like buyers want to push this one up anymore right this minute. But we have seen some AI names go parabolic, and this one certainly would be one of the hottest in the space right now. So wouldn't be surprised to see it keep moving as we ride this. I mean, it looks so good on the hourly chart. Like, you can see how tight things got. If this one decides to start breaking out again tomorrow, then it would be hard for me to stay away from it, even though we're so extended. But yeah, I think you do probably want to wait for this one to pull back to the 10-day at least. And it might not happen, but that's okay. You can try something else. And yeah, this one got acquired, so it's just gangbusters right now. It's far beyond where I would want to buy it. And then Caterpillar, this one's actually looking quite good. IBM looking like it wants to get shorted. Roblox, there just appears to be a lot of selling up here in this area. You know, this got eaten up pretty quickly, and then we've just, every time we've come up here, we've gotten rejected. Now buyers did step in and hold the 50. You can see more buying happening here. So this one, if it does break out here, then I can definitely see a possible continuation, but not as clean of a setup as I would like. Then Oklo coming right back up to highs here. So, I mean, I can see it putting in like one tight day then going. I think that would be the ideal situation. Yeah, this one I'd really like to see one more pullback before it goes, but if it goes, it goes. What are you going to do about it, you know? I will watch it though. The Mongo's still holding up. You can see it's coming into the 50-hour line, and the 10-day line is still quite far below. So we'll see if it can kind of catch the tracks on any of these moving averages and start riding up higher. Probably not for me though. G Aerospace, just not for me. Shopify, this one's starting to look pretty dang good. I'd love to buy it over these highs. Yeah, it's held this gap nicely. It's just kind of moved sideways. You can see the selling. Hopefully starting to come out of it. If we can make a higher low here and start to go higher, I think it's definitely a potential buy spot. I'm not sure how fast this one is going to move, but it's definitely made big runs in the past, so we'll just have to see. This one is actually going to test all-time highs if it does break out, so could be an interesting one. I wonder if it does pause again, if it does come into all-time highs, but I don't think I'm going to let that affect my decision making on this one. I think over this high, this would be a great name to get into. And Spotify, this is just not a nice chart. I just see a lot of distribution here. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, it just means it's kind of a chop fest. And then Rocket Lab, this one, I really didn't like how it sold off here, but it's kind of rallied back up. Now, I probably personally would not buy this one if it broke into highs. I just don't trust it to hold that and keep going, but honestly, I can see this one really starting to ramp up. So this is one where I actually can't tell you what I'm going to be doing with this one. Like, not because I don't want to tell you, but because I don't know myself. That's probably not a good spot to be in, but I don't really like how this chart looks, honestly. But that doesn't mean it's not going to work. And if you were going to try it, this probably wouldn't be a bad time to try it. The stock will resolve that for us itself. Maybe I'll put a try-in on this one, but definitely not a perfect setup by any means. Oh, look at that. So Quantum looks like it's coming back into play. You had this nice breakout here. Probably not something I'm going to play myself just because this is not something I want to be holding overnight ever. But yeah, you can definitely make a lot of money on those if you have your head on a swivel. Then Tempest, just kind of pausing at these highs. It's going to be interesting to see if it can finally break out into new ground here. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this isn't the nicest looking stock in the world, but I think if this one does break out into all-time highs, it's definitely going to be a fast mover, so we'll keep our eye on it. And then Carvana, coming down to this 50 here. It's kind of in a similar position to Roblox. The chart kind of looks a little similar in my opinion with these earnings sell-offs, but then kind of holding the 50. So this one, I'm not super bullish on it, but I do think if it does break into all-time highs, then it will probably put in another nice run. Iron, too little too late for me. I can't trade this one right now, but definitely one to keep your eye on. Disney looks like it wants to get shorted. And DoorDash, just kind of pulling back. This one is a good one to buy off of moving averages. It doesn't really like to break out cleanly, but it does pull back quite a bit, so it's a potential one for me. Let me see where this would be a potential buy. Maybe if you came all the way back down here and bounced, but I'm not sure if it's going to quite do that. But yeah, it's a potential. Soundhound, maybe starting to form a true base in earnest here. Probably not getting interested in this one until we're over these highs though. That's not even really a high, it's just a resistance level. And then VST, this one kind of showing similar to GEV. I do prefer GEV over this one, but this one could put in a nice run as well. Yeah, I mean, both of these stocks look really, really good, if I'm going to be honest. I think I'm just going to stick with GEV because that's the liquid leader, but VST, I'm sure if GEV starts moving up, that one's going to be great as well. Okay, so that takes us through all 100 stocks. Let's see how many we have on the watch list. We've got 22, so that's good to me. Sounds good to me, and yeah, I don't think I'm going to do any more tonight. It's probably time for me to get to bed and get ready for this upcoming week. Yeah, man, I tell you, with trading, it's a tough thing because you just want to dive in and you want to put as much blood, sweat, and tears in it. You want to get intense, you want to make moves, you want to succeed, but it's really just not that kind of game. You need to be patient, you need to be calculated. Things aren't going to happen every single day, so you can really only put so much time into trading, which I would say is probably not my favorite part about it, but I do think it is the fastest way to actually accumulate some sort of meaningful wealth. So just going to keep learning, just going to try and be patient, try and master these emotions, try and keep the intensity down, and hopefully we can make some headway. So let's see if anybody watched this thing. Oh, 2 views. Maybe that's just me signing back on. But if you were watching, I hope you enjoyed this this stream. Let me know if you have any comments in the bottom, and I will see you next time, so thank you.